The anniversary that changed everything. On the night that was supposed to celebrate 25 years of marriage, Naomi Sterling stood beside her husband, smiling politely as friends and colleagues raised their glasses. Silver decorations shimmered under soft lights, laughter filled the room, and everything looked perfect from the outside. Until Darren Price took the microphone. "I think 25 years is enough," he said casually, as if announcing a change in dinner plans. "I want a different life now, someone younger, and Naomi, you'll need to move out by tomorrow." The room froze. Naomi felt every sound disappear. No music, no voices, only the dull thud of her heartbeat. Darren didn't even look at her. His mother, Celeste Price, sat in the front row with a calm, satisfied smile, as though she had been waiting for this moment. What Darren conveniently forgot was one important detail. The luxury condo they lived in had been a gift from Naomi's parents long before his name ever touched the paperwork. Naomi slowly stood up. She took the microphone from Darren's trembling hand and spoke just one sentence, one calm, measured sentence that left him completely speechless. But that moment was still ahead. Weeks earlier, everything started to feel wrong. One night, Naomi woke up around 3 a.m. to hushed voices outside the bedroom. Darren was on the phone again, whispering urgently, "We have to do this carefully. She can't suspect anything." A woman's voice answered softly, his mother. Naomi stayed perfectly still, her heart pounding as she listened. The words felt sharp, dangerous. When Darren finally slipped back into bed, his body was tense, restless, nothing like the man she had shared a life with for a quarter century. The next morning, Darren acted strangely affectionate. "My love, let's make this anniversary special. You choose the restaurant." Naomi raised an eyebrow. In 25 years, Darren had never cared about planning anything. She always handled the details while he complained. Later, as he rushed out, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. A reminder flashed briefly. "Call S, 11 a.m. "Who's S?" Naomi asked casually when he returned. Darren froze for half a second, just long enough. "A colleague, Sanchez, work stuff." Naomi nodded, but she knew he was lying. His left eye twitched when he lied, always had. That same afternoon, Celeste Price arrived unannounced. She inspected the condo like a real estate agent, then casually asked, "Where do you keep the ownership papers?" The question landed like a warning bell. That night, while Darren showered, Naomi opened his laptop. The password, once their wedding date, had been changed. After several tries, she unlocked it using the date reversed. Her stomach dropped. Search history filled the screen. How to divorce when assets are shared. Ways to protect property before separation. How to force a spouse to sign a waiver. Her phone rang. It was her friend, Candace. "Naomi, I saw Darren today at a jewelry store with a young blonde. They were looking at rings." Naomi didn't cry. That evening, Darren came home with roses and chocolates. "For my one true love," he said smoothly. Naomi looked straight into his eyes and replied quietly, "We need to talk about our future." "After the anniversary," he said quickly. "Not now." After the anniversary. That's when Naomi understood. Whatever he was planning, it was going to happen in front of everyone. What Darren didn't know was this. Naomi had already discovered the trap, and she was no longer the woman he thought he could break. But what Darren and his mother could never imagine was that Naomi was hiding a secret of her own, one powerful enough to destroy every plan they had carefully prepared. And the night of the anniversary was about to turn into their worst nightmare.
The secret that changed the game. The next morning, Naomi woke up with a tight knot in her chest. Darren had already left for work without breakfast, another small detail that confirmed her fears. 25 years together, and now he moved through the house like a stranger rehearsing a role. At exactly 11 a.m., the landline rang. Darren had forgotten his phone on the kitchen counter. Naomi didn't answer, but the voicemail picked up. "Darren," Celeste's voice whispered urgently, "I spoke to Mr. Hayes. Everything is arranged. The most important thing is that she suspects nothing until the very end. Call me." Hayes. So that was the mysterious S. Naomi felt a chill crawl up her spine. This wasn't an impulsive betrayal, it was organized, planned, executed like a business deal. Her hands shook as she picked up Darren's phone. 6-digit passcode. She tried dates she knew by heart, nothing. Then, following pure instinct, she entered March 8. The screen unlocked. Messages flooded the display. "My love, after the anniversary, we'll finally be free. The condo will be ours. Mom says the lawyer will make her sign." The name at the top made her breath hitch. Sierra. So the jewelry store hadn't been a coincidence. Naomi copied every message, every detail, and quietly placed the phone back where it belonged. Crying would come later, if at all. Right now, she needed clarity. She made one call. "Aisha," Naomi said when her old college friend answered, "I need legal advice, today." By evening, Naomi sat across from Aisha Cole, now a respected family attorney. Once the story poured out, the late-night calls, the mistress, the lawyer, Aisha's expression hardened. "They're planning to ambush you publicly," she said calmly. "Humiliation weakens people. That's how they force signatures." "What do I do?" Naomi asked. "Nothing obvious yet. Gather proof, secure your finances, and most importantly, don't let them know you know." For the first time in days, Naomi felt something close to control. That night, Darren returned home smelling of unfamiliar perfume. He studied her face carefully. "You look tired," he said casually. "You should take better care of yourself." There it was, the emotional erosion, step by step. Later, while Darren slept, Naomi checked their joint account. Over $30,000 had disappeared in recent weeks. Gifts, transfers, legal fees. He was funding his new life with our money. Then Naomi opened her desk drawer. Inside lay an unopened envelope she had received days earlier but never mentioned to anyone. A formal letter from a notary office in Germany. Her Aunt Josephine, her late father's sister, had passed away. Naomi's hands trembled as she reread the words, "sole heir." The inheritance details followed like a quiet explosion. A luxury condo in Munich, a high-value investment condo in Miami Beach, over $500,000 in cash, additional assets totaling more than $3 million. Naomi leaned back slowly. Darren believed she was dependent, predictable, trapped. He had no idea she had just become financially untouchable. The next morning, Naomi visited a real estate lawyer, not the one Darren was using. The truth emerged quickly. The Georgetown condo, the lawyer said after reviewing old files, was gifted to you by your parents before marriage. Darren's name was added later. Naomi closed her eyes. That meant everything. She transferred half of the joint funds into a personal account, legally, quietly. Then she secured the inheritance documents in a private safe. That evening, Darren called her, unusually excited. "I booked something big, a grand anniversary celebration, ballroom, guests, everyone." "How many people?" Naomi asked calmly. "About 100. 100 witnesses. Naomi smiled to herself. Let him have his stage. He didn't realize yet, but he had just handed her the perfect one. Darren thought the anniversary would end Naomi's life as she knew it. What he didn't know was that Naomi had already rewritten the ending, and the next part of the story would unfold in front of everyone he trusted.
The trap set in plain sight. The days leading up to the anniversary passed like a slow-burning fuse. Darren transformed into a man obsessed with perfection, calling venues, reviewing menus, rehearsing speeches in front of the mirror. Every detail mattered. Every second had to unfold exactly as planned. Naomi watched quietly. She nodded when appropriate, smiled when expected. She played her role flawlessly. One evening, Celeste Price arrived with a small envelope and a syrupy smile. "Just a little gift, dear," she said sweetly. Inside was a business card, Hayes and Associates, Family Law, with a handwritten note, "Free consultation, just in case." Naomi almost laughed. The audacity was breathtaking. They were offering her the very lawyer who had helped plan her downfall. "Thank you," Naomi said calmly, "very thoughtful." Celeste's lips curved in satisfaction. "I only worry about you, daughter." Daughter? In 25 years, she had never used that word before. That night, Naomi overheard Darren rehearsing his speech behind a closed door. "Sometimes honesty hurts," he muttered, "but it must be said." She didn't need to hear more. The morning of the anniversary arrived crisp and clear. Darren woke up unusually cheerful. "Today changes everything," he said, adjusting his tie, "for both of us." Naomi met his gaze in the mirror. "Yes," she replied softly, "it really does." By evening, the ballroom shimmered with white roses and crystal chandeliers. 100 guests filled the space, friends, colleagues, family. Champagne flowed, laughter echoed. At the far end of the room stood Sierra, young, elegant, confident. She was introduced as Darren's new assistant. Naomi watched as Sierra laughed with guests, perfectly at ease, already acting like she belonged there. Their eyes met briefly. Sierra's gaze was cool, dismissive. Darren was glowing. "This is it," he whispered to his mother. "Everyone is here." Celeste squeezed his arm. "Make us proud." The master of ceremonies tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "a toast from the husband of the evening, Mr. Darren Price." Applause filled the room. Darren stood, took the microphone, and smiled broadly. 25 years, he began. A lifetime, really. Guests raised their glasses. But life teaches us that not all choices remain right forever. A hush fell. Naomi felt the shift. The air changed. "I believe honesty matters," he continued, "and today I choose honesty." He turned toward Naomi. "For years, I endured a marriage that no longer fulfilled me. I want a new life, a better one." Gasps rippled through the room. "Our marriage ends tonight," Darren declared. "I will be filing for divorce." Someone shouted, "This isn't funny." "I'm serious," he replied coldly. "Naomi will leave the condo. We'll divide assets fairly." He glanced toward Sierra, who smiled faintly. "This woman understands me. She represents my future." Silence. Shock. Outrage. Naomi stood slowly. She walked toward him, heels clicking softly against marble. Darren expected tears, collapse, begging. Instead, she gently took the microphone from his hand. "Thank you, Darren, for finally telling the truth." He frowned. "Naomi, this isn't the time." "Oh, it is," she replied, smiling. The room leaned in. "You see," Naomi continued, "I've known about this plan for weeks." Murmurs erupted. "I know about Sierra, about the lawyer hiding in the back, and about the attempt to steal my home." Darren's face drained of color. Naomi opened her folder. "And now," she said quietly, "it's my turn to be honest." As Naomi raised the first document into the air, Darren realized, too late, that the stage he built to destroy her was about to expose him, and what came next would leave the entire room stunned into silence. The truth no one expected. The ballroom felt impossibly still. Naomi held the document high enough for the nearest tables to see, though the real weight wasn't the paper, it was what it represented. "This condo," she said evenly, "was a gift from my parents to me years before my husband's name ever appeared on the title." Darren shook his head, laughing nervously. "That's not true. It's shared property." Naomi turned slightly and faced the guests. "I have official confirmation from the attorney who handled the purchase. In legal terms, it's premarital property. A sharp inhale swept through the room. Darren took a step back. And there's more, Naomi continued. She opened another file. 3 weeks ago, I inherited assets from my late aunt in Germany, 2 properties and substantial financial holdings, all legally protected, all mine. Someone whispered, "My God." Sierra's smile vanished. So, Naomi said calmly, there will be no condo for anyone else to move into, no fortune to divide, and no waiver for me to sign. Darren's voice cracked. Naomi, please, we can talk privately. Naomi met his eyes. You chose the audience. She turned to the crowd. I apologize for the shock tonight, but I won't be publicly humiliated into surrendering my life. She placed the microphone gently on the table. For half a second, the room remained silent. Then it exploded. You planned this? Someone shouted at Darren. How could you do this after 25 years? That money, was it hers you were spending? Sierra stepped forward, furious. You promised me? Enough, Darren snapped, panic rising. Not here. But it was already too late. Voices overlapped, phones appeared, whispers turned into accusations. Naomi walked calmly toward the exit. Behind her, Celeste tried to regain control. This is all a misunderstanding. But no one listened. Outside, the cool night air wrapped around Naomi like a release. She paused for one moment, looking back through the glass walls. Darren stood frozen at the center of the chaos, his speech ruined, his lies exposed, his allies turning away. The stage had flipped. 3 months later, the courtroom was quiet. The judge reviewed the documents, then looked up. The condo on M Street is the separate premarital property of Mrs. Naomi Sterling. It is not subject to division. Darren's shoulders sagged. Joint debts incurred for personal use will remain Mr. Price's responsibility. Naomi sat still, composed. The marriage is dissolved. The gavel struck. Outside the courthouse, Darren approached her hesitantly. Naomi, I was wrong. She looked at him, not with anger, not with satisfaction, but with finality. I know, that's why this ends here. Months later, Naomi stood on the balcony of her Miami home, ocean breeze lifting her hair. Her life had reshaped itself, not through revenge, but through clarity. She had not destroyed anyone, she had simply refused to be destroyed. But the most surprising part of Naomi's story didn't happen in the courtroom or the ballroom. It happened afterwards, when she chose what kind of life she would build next. A life reclaimed. Life didn't transform overnight. It unfolded quietly, steadily, without drama or applause. Naomi moved out of Georgetown within weeks, not because she had to, but because she wanted a clean beginning. The Miami Beach condo left to her by her aunt became her refuge. Wide windows open to the ocean, sunlight filled every room, and for the first time in decades, silence felt peaceful instead of heavy. She slept better. She breathed deeper. She stopped waiting for permission to exist. Friends checked in, cautious at first, unsure whether to comfort or congratulate her. Naomi reassured them with a calm smile. I didn't lose anything, she told them. I got myself back. Professionally, she surprised everyone, including herself. After years of building someone else's comfort, she stepped away from corporate accounting and invested in a dream she had buried long ago. With her inheritance, Naomi launched a small publishing studio focused on international literature and independent voices. The work energized her. For the first time, her success belonged only to her. Occasionally, memories surfaced, not painful ones, but quiet reflections. 25 years wasn't a waste. It was an education. It taught her endurance, boundaries, and the cost of silence. As for Darren, news reached her indirectly. He lost his position within months. Reputation doesn't recover easily when humiliation goes viral. He moved back in with his mother after selling what little remained. The woman he thought would replace Naomi disappeared once the promises ran dry. Naomi didn't celebrate his fall. She simply let it go. One evening, her friend Aisha visited. They sat on the balcony with tea, watching waves break softly below. "Do you feel like you won?" Aisha asked gently. Naomi considered the question. "I don't feel victorious, I feel free, and that's better." A year later, a letter arrived with a familiar handwriting. It was Darren. He didn't ask for forgiveness, he didn't ask for another chance. He simply admitted what he had destroyed and acknowledged that Naomi had been the strongest person in the room all along. She folded the letter carefully and placed it in a drawer. Some things didn't need a response. On a warm evening, Naomi stood barefoot on her terrace, city lights glowing behind her, ocean stretching endlessly ahead. She thought of the woman she had been, the one who waited, explained, endured. She smiled softly. That woman was gone. What remained was someone wiser, steadier, and unafraid of standing alone. Naomi didn't rebuild her life out of anger, she rebuilt it out of truth. And that made all the difference. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't exposure. It's healing, growing, and walking away stronger than anyone expected.